Welcome to another exciting edition to GroveCityHockey Presents
Hockey in our neck of the woods, and you, sir, were a very talked about person towards the end.
I'm a fifth-year senior, kind of. Well, it's my sixth year of college. Incredible.
Hey guys, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Cut Shield, for bringing you this episode. Make sure you check them out on the link below and use the promo code for 25% off your order. Used by all 32 NHL teams and players, Cut Shield is the premier protective player clothing designed by players for players. Their innovative cut-resistant clothing has prevented serious injury to numerous players, including over 30 NHL players. Cut Shield gives you the peace of mind to go out and play without worrying about injury. Use our promo code GroveCityHockey, all lowercase and no space, for an additional 25% off your order today. Welcome to GCH Podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, and with me is a very special guest. I am bringing David Princler of the Detroit Fuel on. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, Ben?
Living the dreams. It's the first episode I've had a chance to do since I got married, and there was a week preparation before the wedding and a week, and then I'm just like, I can't film anything, so you're the first one back from that, so I'm excited to get back into it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. So, Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the sport of roller hockey? Was it something that you started out playing ice, or were you more of a roller guy first? Tell us your journey here, bud.
So, honestly, I didn't play roller hockey or any hockey until I was 17. I was a baseball kid growing up. Mm-hmm. Always wanted to play hockey. I would go to Borden Park out by me, outdoor rink, and skate around. I'd skate up and down my street, pretending I was winning Game 7 of the Stanley Cup for the Red Wings and, normal kid stuff. But it was too expensive. Never school. I was working at a roller rink doing, team night skates and DJing the open skates and all that kind of stuff. And just kind of got stuck, snowed in the rink the one night and picked up a stick and some gloves and never looked back. That was where it all started for me.
Cool. And so you cut out a little bit. What rink was that? Was that at the Rochester Hills and in Livernois?
Yes, Rochester Hills Skating and Sports Association.
Yeah.
So some people might know it, US Blades or Skate Zone or
right.
All these different names it's gone through. But when I started and I was working there, it was Rochester Hills Skating and Sports Arena. Yep.
That's how I remember it. It was a unique setup because
mm-hmm.
you had the locker rooms down some stairs.
Yep.
And then you had like
super dangerous.
Yeah. You had a small auxiliary rink off to the end, one side, mm-hmm. down at the end, and then your fans were all up in the upper balcony, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And you had just a little bit like a 3 to 4 foot wide, maybe a 5 foot wide hallway that led to the locker rooms that went down the stairs.
Yeah.
And everything like that. And that was and I think I know for a fact that Major League Roller Hockey participated out of that facility a few times.
Yep, there was some of my favorite pictures and clips that I saw from back in the day of friends is guys like Mike Farinelli and Ryan Ramsden playing in that league there. Those are the pictures I always saw, and I see them still when they share them. And I think I can speak for everyone. We all miss that place.
Yeah.
It was a dump, black mold, and not very well kept up. But for a long time, that was home for a lot of us.
Yeah, and it was one of the premier rinks for us coming from the west side to challenge you guys, because we had our rivalry with the Thunder and the Revolution, because you got a chance to play with the Revolution, quite early. That's how I kind of noticed you, because you were this young, big, up and coming goaltender, and you took me by surprise. So and I was like, man, how am I gonna get my shot past this kid? Because he's actually pretty good, but now I feel kind of embarrassed. No, I'm just kidding. But that just goes to the level of skill that you were able to acquire at a rather quick pace.
Yeah, I had a couple of buddies that played up there. Looking back, they might not have been top tier pro level goalies, but they knew their stuff. Zach Sellis and John Lapola, two great guys. They taught me the basics. They got me working, gave me the confidence. Thanks to those guys, that's how I fell in love with being a goalie and realized that it was something that you could learn at any age.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that a late start wasn't going to keep me from getting good at it.
Right. And Zach's another name that I haven't heard in quite some time. I think I'm still friends with him on Facebook, so I see his posts from time to time. But yeah, man, it's such a long time ago. But great memories nonetheless. But yeah, so you started out there, and then what really drew you to the sport of hockey? Was it something like your parents were big hockey fans, or your grandpa or an uncle, or maybe even your aunt or your mom even? So
my mom was obsessed with the Red Wings back in the 90s, like most Detroit fans. I don't know how far back her love of the game goes, but I do remember watching, and I was young, but I remember watching in 97 and 98, them winning back to back, and your 2002, 2008 teams just, glued to the TV for every game. I have all the DVDs back in the day. I had the VHSs of the 97, 98, and those were on repeat every Saturday morning. Those were being played.
And rightfully so, because that was probably that era. To me, I think was some of the best hockey that you will ever see outside of what you're starting to see now, because now you're starting to see more of a puck possession and more puck controlled aspect of the game versus what you saw back then in the 90s. Was you saw the skill, you had the skill guys, but you also had the bruisers, the guys that were laying the big checks, like Scott Stevens, Chris Draper, Claude Lemieux, and I'm not a fan of Claude Lemieux. I will say that right now.
No.
I'm a huge fan of the Avalanche, but I thought what he did with that hit from behind was atrocious. But yeah, and and of course you had Darren McCarty on your team. So you had a great mix of both pure talent, and then you had pure talent and puck possessions mixed in with the heavy hitters that you would see. And so it's just incredible to see that, but then to where you're at now, where it's just more of a speed aspect, where you're starting to see McDavid, Alex DeBrincat, McKinnon. I can just go on and on with these names. I mean, it's phenomenal as to what they're able to showcase as far as their skill level.
But hockey is at an all-time high right now with the speed and skill of the game. And, like I said, 3-4 years old is when I started being, a fan glued to the TV for those videos. Here I am almost 31, and I'm still just as impressed and as big of a fan as ever with how the game is today.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now, okay, so let's backtrack or let's move forward a little bit. You're just now getting a chance to pick up some minutes playing with the Revolution. Where did you go from there? Because you were with them for I want to say a couple seasons, and then I don't want to say you jumped ship, but you got picked up by another team.
So back when we were at RHSSA, Smo had a team, the Motor City Phoenix. I skated out with them. That's when I was trying to figure out if I wanted to play goalie or player. You know, I was still new to the game, so I was trying to figure out where I wanted to stay. And from the Phoenix, for at least for MIHA, we went from that team to, it was just kind of pick up here and there with certain teams. And then I went to the Saints. Early days of the Saints, you know, this was yellow jerseys with iron-on logo and numbers. I think it was either Dave Anderson or Carl had reached out to me and said, "Hey, you know, we need a goalie just for this one tournament." So I went to Columbus, played with them, had a great time. But I'd actually started playing with the Gamblers. I'd committed to them for that season. That's a team we don't really like to talk about anymore, but
well, so it's interesting because I think you came in for that one season while I was overseas that year, so that would have been in 2012.
Yeah, I think it was 2013 is when I played the one tournament for the Saints, and then did the rest of the season with the Gamblers. That team was a great team. I enjoyed a lot of the guys that played with, but unfortunately, there's a couple guys that no one really wants to be associated with from that anymore. And you know, so the rest of the guys were great. I enjoyed playing with them, but and then so after my first tournament with them, Dave Anderson said, "Well, we don't have a goalie anymore. Do you want to play with the Saints?" And I told him, I was like, "Well, no, you know, I've already committed to the Gamblers, but next season I'm in. Count me in."
Right.
And so from there, you know, I spent quite a few seasons with the Saints. And then that was, you know, I think it was probably 5 or 6 seasons with them. And those are some of the best teams that I had played on in MIHA. You know, we were always in it, never out, never getting blown out, always sniffing around championship games. So that was a good organization to be with.
Yeah, you had those Mid-Michigan Saints teams. They've always found a way to be competitive, and they weren't blowing you out of the water. I mean, they would some teams, but they weren't blowing you out every weekend. But if you came across another team that was slightly better than you, they still made it a competitive game. So you were still losing by, you know, 1 or 2 goals, maybe 4 at the most would be considered a blowout. And that would be because you guys gave up a couple of late period goals, you know, at the end of the third. But everything else was, you know, was within, you know, within the last 5 minutes of the third would be within, you know, 1 or 2 goals at least, you know.
Yeah, I know. I think it was the 14-15 season. I had one top goalie with the lowest goals against average for Tier 3, and unfortunately couldn't play in championships because I had blown a hernia and had to get that repaired and wasn't cleared. But I do remember going back and looking at the stats, and I think our goals for was like 2 higher than our goals against that season.
Yeah.
And we had made, I think, 3 or 4 championship games and always been in every game. And that, you know, that's not just on me. I had great defense with me as well.
Yeah. The defense for the Saints, it was always one of those things where you knew when you were playing the Saints that you were getting a hard fought battle the whole game. No matter who you had on your team, you knew that you had to bring it for all 3 periods.
Right. Yeah. No, it was a fun team to play with.
Yep. And then from there, you kind of went from the Knights to the Gong Show for a couple of games.
Yep.
And then, but you didn't really commit to a full season.
So that was
in those years.
That was at one point the NRHL had come around, and I was playing with the Border Cats. I had conflicting weekends for Saints tournaments. So I had gotten my buddy Justin Spavali to replace me for those tournaments. The Saints enjoyed playing with him, which is a great goalie. I don't blame him. So they kind of stuck with him for a couple of seasons there. So the season after I had played NRHL, just same thing. Carl said, "Hey, this team needs a goalie this weekend. Hey, this team needs a goalie." So I just kind of would fill in wherever I was needed. And that's how I ended up in the games with the Gong Show and Knights.
Yeah.
Which, again, fun tournaments. I enjoyed playing Tier 2.
Yeah.
Back then I could hang in Tier 2. Now, I don't know. Tier 2 has gotten a lot better.
So that T2 division, the T2 division nowadays is insane to watch. I'm kind of bummed that you don't get a chance to see the championship games, broadcasted, because they're on the other rink.
Yeah.
But the speed and everything that they bring, and it's phenomenal. It's some of the best roller hockey that I get a chance to see in person because of how talented everybody is. I mean, you've got Corey Hodge, you've got Okada, you've got Jess Hackett, Roy Davis, Aaron Schwartz, Schultze. And then you get who else? Yeah, so many others. And then on top of that,
fuel guys.
And the fuel, Smolinski, Blazikowski, Drew Height. Yeah, Drew Height.
He's a good player.
Yeah, and then that doesn't even include the goaltenders that you have with Robinson and the list goes. I'm drawing a blank on all the tenders, but they're also
Yasu for New Era. I can never remember the Cincy Kings. I can never remember their goalie's name.
Mitch Harden. I've got an interview coming up with him soon.
He's a good goalie. He's always been one that's impressed me.
Yeah, and I was blown away with their playoff run this year, because I did not expect them to get blown out 8-0 by the Smoke. I believe that's who they played. Because I think it was the Smoke. Because I wasn't expecting Corey Hodge and the boys with Ross and all of those guys just lighting him up. And then and here's the cool thing about what Harden did. So he gets dimed in that game, and I get up to go use the restroom. I come back out. It hasn't even been 20 seconds, and the goaltender for the Sixers is down and out.
Yep.
And from my understanding is he blew his Achilles, he blew his Achilles or something with his ankle. Within seconds, like he just happened to make a save and just went down on it wrong. Everybody heard the pop. I didn't hear it because I was in the restroom. The restroom. And so they're like scrambling to try to find a replacement, and Mitch threw on his gear right then and there, hopped back out and helped the Sixers. I don't know if it was for the whole game because I had to leave to go pick up my son, but I mean that just goes to show that hey, he's a gamer. He's going to do what he can to help you guys.
Yeah, I mean that's that's like one of my favorite stories from way back Motor City Phoenix days. Was our goalie was MIA for championship weekend playoff game, and he had me scrambling. I was playing player on that team. I was scrambling. I borrowed pads from the rink, stick, glove, and blocker from the Griffin or Giraffes goalie for Tier 2.
Yep.
Someone's pants, someone's this, someone's that, and went out there and played a playoff game. You know, missed the first like half a period or something, and ended up playing. You know, scrambling to find gear, but finished the game. I think we lost 3-2 with an empty netter, or 4-2 with an empty netter to the Knights at that game.
Yeah, and that just goes to show, like, you know, and kudos to everybody that helped you find some gear.
Oh yeah,
and allowed you to play with some gear too, because that was insane.
Yeah, it was like very nice of them, because I'll be honest with you, I don't like letting people use my gear.
Mm-hmm.
Just back then probably, but now I just, something about other people sweating my gear kind of gives me the ick, you know. But but you know, some people it doesn't bother them, so I appreciate those guys.
Yeah, and then you finally settled in with your boys at the Detroit Fuel with Smolinski and his startup at the beginning. You've been with him since day one. I feel like.
Yep. It was when COVID was starting to pass. We opened up the Fraser rink after Dumars tragically closed. Still hurts to this day, man. I miss that place.
It really does. It does.
But we were starting up a new league, you know, new rink, and Smo asked me to play for his gold team, and yeah, cool. I'm out of shape, but I'll play gold.
Right.
And you know, we actually had a couple really good seasons playing in gold, which is basically now what the platinum division at Fraser is. And you know, there was probably 3 or 4 months after the second season that I didn't play for a Fuel team, and then picked right back up onto it. So
yeah. The Dumars rink was the last rink that I was able to play on before my back said, "You're done. You can't do anything more." You know, so when I heard that they finally went under, it was just devastating for me as well.
Yeah, it was very tough. You know, 7 years that place was home for a lot. Well, for me, 7 years, but a lot of people 20 plus years spent at that rink, and just for it to, you know, up and board up the doors was pretty devastating. We didn't even get to finish our last season there, you know.
Yeah, that's brutal, you know.
Yeah.
So
and quickly, I don't want to gloss over the season with D-Rev. That was the only one that we ended up winning a championship with. Pretty much was the Fuel guys. Half of us went to Fuel, half of us stayed D-Rev.
Right.
But I just wanted to Tier 3B team, we went all the way and ended up winning championship weekend just before Fuel started. Fuel was already in process of starting, but you know, we obviously had to wait till the next season.
Yep.
That was when Leon branched off and we all started to separate.
Yeah. Nick Leon's been on the pod too. He's a great guy.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
I love Leon. He's a good guy.
Cool. So you're with the Fuel. So tell us a little bit about your MIHA season this past season. You were battling the injury bug there for a little bit, right?
This season, not so much. At the end of 2 seasons ago, I was pretty, you know, I just finished up MIHA one weekend, Legends the next weekend. I refed like 30 games in Legends. I skated in the evaluation skates for the Legends draft, and then I played my games. And about 2 weeks after that, I felt like I couldn't stand. My hips were just fatigued from all the goalie and skating and all that. So that, you know, I was a little bit injured for that season. The last 2 seasons, though, I've been pretty good, other than a couple little minor things that didn't affect MIHA times. This last season, I was actually working at a Chrysler plant for my job. then I was supposed to be there the whole weekend of our first tournament. So I got Carlos to play, and then Wednesday before the tournament, they cut us and sent us home. So I ended up going to Indy with the team, but I wasn't going to last minute tell Carlos, "Hey, sorry, thanks for covering, but I got this now." I'm not in that kind of game right now. He was already pumped up and ready to go, and it's 2 days till they leave. I was like, Carlos, you can play. I'm not gonna steal that from you. And, I just didn't want to. I didn't want to do that to him. He's a good guy, and that would just been. I feel like that would have been really a dick move of me.
Yeah. Well, and that just shows you the type of teammate that you are.
Yeah.
Here you are going, "Hey, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. Why don't I have somebody cover for me?" And then, unbeknownst to you that you were able to make it, but yet you were like, "You know what? Play it, man. I'll sit this one out and let you do your thing and support you the best I can. I'm going to be there in case you mess up." But
I had my gear in the car. I had my gear with me.
But yes, but like I said, that just goes to the type of teammate that you have been basically your entire career. So tell us a couple of your favorite moments outside, because you just said one of them was the Detroit Revolution winning in 2021, 2020 and 2021. So why don't you tell us a couple more of your favorite memories?
So, there's a ton, right? You said, so just since they've been keeping stats for MIHA on the computer, I played 106 games. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm probably over 50,000 at this point, in the last 12, 13 years of all the games I picked up. And so there's a lot of games to choose from. If I had to go, maybe top two, one of them was NRHL. That season in general, I got to play in a pro league, even though I sat on the bench most of those games. That was still such a cool experience to do. Then I got to play my couple of games, got the wins. My first period, they put me in for the third period against Smo and Schultz Surge team, and started on a penalty kill in the third period, and someone passed the puck across crease to Schultz, and I robbed him with the glove.
Nice.
And I'll always hold that one over his head. Here I come, no warm-up, cold, and just snagged. It was going top corner, snagged this puck. That whole time was probably, that was where I would say the peak of my playing days was, because I went that summer and I backed up for excitement and pro at tours. Mm-hmm. And then the next weekend after that was the men's divisions, and I took top goaltender for the men's gold division, which was the division right under pro,
Yep.
So when I think back of the best times I've had playing hockey, it's usually something around that time when I had those ugly brown pads and and was getting my chance to really shine after. And that was all after my hernia surgery. So I was coming back from injury, and I had, I felt I had something to prove.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, David. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock. David Princler from the Detroit Fuel. His favorite coach is Nick Leon, of course. So,
of course.
Yeah, of course. We'll just say that.
It was good catching up with you, Ben. Long time no see. We'll have to change that. Have a beer next time. Next time I see you.
For sure. We'll make it. We'll make it happen next time I'm over that way.
All right. Sounds good, buddy.
Yep. Cheers.
Cheers.